Good afternoon from Marie at messymcreations. Sorry, slightly later than I planned, but I am here. And I know I'm playing with Ornate Style, but beyond that, who knows? I've got some paper, I've got some colours. I'm going to see what happens. You might see the frightening thought process that goes on in my head when I create. And actually I just realised I needed to find my Stays On ink. So I'm going to ink this one up in, so I've already inked one up in Early Espresso. Kind of got a thought with that one. And I've got another thought with this one. So I'm doing this in Stays On because it will give me ample opportunity to then play. Good evening, good evening. I hope everybody's been having sunshine today. I went on a lovely walk this morning, which was rather fab. I don't really know why the Versamark is sitting there. So, after my fussy cutting yesterday, I'm going to do some more today. What I thought was keeping this simple and cutting around it and then sort of layering up to create a card. So in the first instance I'm going to cut around the very edges. So hopefully Tuesday has treated you well. Don't know where time's going at the moment. So it's quite detailed, but I was already later than I had planned anyway, so I'd planned to be around at 6, so I thought I'd better not do any more prep. So have you managed to have time in your craft rooms? Oh yes, beautiful day for gardening as well. My plan after I've finished this is just to go and have a little potter, water the shady bits, wait for the sunny bits to go into the shade, water them later. It's been quite dry and we've got quite a few new plants, so I don't know whether you were planting in your garden or sitting and relaxing. Or weeding, I suppose that's the other job we have to do, isn't it? But yeah, I'm definitely loving this glorious weather. We're on the countdown to the new Stampin' Up catalogue coming out. So they've been delivered and will be winging their way out. Oh, fantastic. Do they crop well? I've got wild strawberries, but they don't really do anything. Well, they give me very little strawberries, but we've got some. I insisted on having a blueberry plant this year. David's got gooseberries and raspberries. a little bit there. So I wasn't sure whether I was going to colour this or not. I'm going to see what happens. You're the same as me, Wendy. I ended up placing a second pre-order, and actually mine allegedly is coming on Friday as well. I think from talking to one of the ladies on the walk today, we're still suffering from the Suez Canal situation. Obviously not the parcels from Germany, but from a stock point of view. And that's what's causing the container shortage, because the stuff that got stuck in the Suez Canal hasn't come off containers as it was supposed to have done, and is still wending its way across. So coming to your house, afternoon tea with Wendy. Blueberries and strawberries. That's my perfect combination. So this is the Ornate Style stamp or stamp set, which also comes with a little bouquet, a little kind of lone daisy, and this pattern piece, which all coordinates with the Ornate Gardens paper. So what I thought I might be able to do, it's not an exact match, but obviously not straight on there, but what I'm thinking is we could layer some paper as a contrast. Oh, I might do 2 layers and then pop it on there and just colour the leaves. Should we try that? If someone had written that, you'd think it was some sort of fantasy novel. And I still don't understand how that ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. I don't understand how the ship was crossways in the canal. But yes, it is like a bit like being on Faulty Towers or something, isn't it, really? You're just sort of thinking, what next? So I've stuck this onto the card, and then I'm going to cut it out with a... Oh, and the idea is to cut it out with a slightly bigger border so that we see that border. I'm not doing it exactly, as you can see from the speed that I'm fussy cutting. And then I think we could choose just to colour the flowers or just to colour the leaves. Now, because I have stamped this in Early Espresso, I need to use alcohol pens, blends. The risk if I don't use blends pens is I get a bit of kind of seepage between the 2 inks, which is why my other piece I did in stays on, because I thought I could kind of colour in some of the background. I think we all need all the energy we've got. Just have to go with the flow. And your grandsons are clearly very lucky that you grow strawberries for them if you can't eat them. I've got another friend who's got a allergy to strawberries. I'm very lucky with no allergies to anything. Well, although post-lockdown I seem to have an allergy to waking up early in the morning. I seem to have gotten very good at, if I don't set an alarm, I kind of sleep till 8, half 8. which is not good if you need to be, well, not that I really need to be somewhere, but you can see I've just created a slight border. I'm thinking picking the colours up from the paper, and on the backs of all our packs of paper tells you the colours. So Bumblebee, Early Espresso, Mint Macaron, Old Olive, Terracotta Tile and Whisper White. Although I'd say that's a bit more, we can have a bit more poetic license on some of those. Let's see. What do we have in the way of that's what you get for making last minute decisions. Everything's not out. But if I get my blends which don't have the ends on, so I have to dark and light Old Olive. Let's try the, oops, a daisy, that one's alive. We'll try inking in some leaves before I start. So I'm going to use dark first. Oh, good Lord. Oh, that's my Old Olive with a funny end. Oh, that's got an Old Olive with an even funnier end. No, I'm not going to use the thick end, I'm going to use the thinner end and just pick up the darker areas where I'm using the dark Old Olive. As I say, this was stamped in Early Espresso, which coordinates with the papers, so I'm just going to it's a bit of crafting on the hoof. I wanted to use this set. We're losing, this set is in the retiring sale. It's only £8. And I think it lends itself to a bit of artistic colouring in. So dark first tends to be the way I go. Where have I got any more leaves? Half the battle is working out what's a leaf and what's a flower in some areas. I think that bit's a leaf, we'll leave that bit. So that's my dark Old Olive first. Because kind of what I'm thinking, whoops daisy. Luckily that had a lid on. So after craft room organisation, I'm still in disorganisation, of course I am, because I just had another thought, because I've alcohol blended that. I'm thinking that might work. So jumping from one project to another, if I inked in the background, kind of created, so these are the Stamp Right markers, which are water based, hence I've put, but what I'm thinking is you can never find a straight edge when you want it. Of course you can't. I had a ruler which which of course I haven't now. I might need to use a window sheet. Because what I'm thinking, actually a window sheet might work. It's a bit of a random ruler, isn't it? But I kind of want a bit of a straight edge. Might end up with 2 not finished cards and then post it later. Don't want to take up all your time this evening. As it's such a lovely one. Unless of course you are actually sitting out in the garden while watching. It's great for the pubs this weather, isn't it? Because they get busy. In fact, where we went for lunch on Sunday had sold out of some of their ales. They'd obviously misforecast. Well, I guess with the weather, who knew? There's something hypnotic about colouring as well. Sorry, and I've completely changed what I was colouring because I suddenly thought I could use a... I'll go back to my blends. I've got half done leaves now. But hopefully it just represents human crafting, I think. Kind of ideas come upon me and then I forget what I'm doing. So that's sort of, that's a leaf. I did train in hypnosis at one point, but I think I've forgotten all my hypnotic language now. Otherwise I could start using hypnotic language on you and I could hypnotise you as you were watching me colouring in. Don't panic, you're safe. Just going to extend that out a little bit, I think. You could use a ruler, you could use a... So yeah, that's a Stampin' Right marker. Oh, lost my other one. When I was on a... I was playing while on a Zoom call yesterday. I love party puffins from the new catalogue. So I made a whole load of masks and created puffins dancing around the cake. It's not perfect because I've got a gap here. So that's an idea I had that needs to come to fruition, but I just wanted like dancing puffins around the cake. See, that's the oh yeah, sorry, I missed the one. Yes, the sentiments from this set are carrying over the oh god, I'm complete opposite. Actually, I'm not the complete opposite because I can drop off to sleep, but I stay asleep as well. Yes, it's the thankful... Gosh, what was the sentiment one? Ornate thanks. So yes, we've maintained the sentiments, but not the... Actually, that might look quite nice on there, or maybe just on a bit of bumblebee card. I might trim that slightly. Because I'm a bit out of... Starts on one card, goes on to another. So we're about 1 centimetre from the edge. So I'm just going to trim... that a little bit, just to make that border a little bit more even. No idea what size. So this card has ended up at 8. Let's do 8 by 11, I think. So I just trimmed it to make it closer to the... But I'm thinking that on a piece of bumblebee card. I've got everything for it now. Oh, I've picked up a bumblebee card base. Oh, look how simple that is. Oh, quite like the simplicity of that. That kind of wasn't what I was expecting to do with that one, but I quite like. So actually, as you've mentioned ornate thanks, we could just have a just simple thank you at the bottom there. Just stamp that directly on the card base. Might round those corners. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that. Thank you for the reminder, Wendy. I just need a block for that. I'm just going to ink that with Memento. Methinks, keep my fingers crossed. Now the benefit of stamping directly onto the card base, if it doesn't work, is you can just create a extra layer if you so wish. So I'm not going to panic if this doesn't work. But if it does, perfect. It kind of wasn't what was in my head, but oh, look at that. Hashtag winning. See how simple is that? All I'm going to do it's all well and good redesigning my craft space, but it means if I've forgotten something I've got to get up every time. So excuse me, moving around. I am going to corner cut bottom and top, just because I quite like not to do them all. And then all I'm going to do is stick that on there. And I rather like that. Not what was in my head, but that is the joy of crafting, as we go with the flow. And then I'll get back to my blends colouring. Don't even know what the time is. So yeah, just simply place that in the centre of that. Oh, actually we could potentially, do we need a bit of, as it's bumblebee? Actually I might just put a couple of those on top of bumblebee. So these round ones are going. We've got some new shapes for these in colours that are staying. I'm just going to do one. Sometimes simplicity is the answer. Anyway, shall I get back to my blends? That was complete and utter distraction from what I was actually doing, because all I was going to do on here is, with the fatter end, just slightly, with the light olive, I need my colour lifter to blend that edge slightly. So I tend to, if I can find it, always have my colour lifter handy, which of course is in the bottom box. So yes, with the Stampin' Blends I always recommend having the colour lifter, and you can just take out that harder edge just to soften. So it helps blend it. Always store blends flat on their side, not on one end, otherwise the ink tends to travel. As I say, colour lifter is really brilliant. And had I used an alcohol ink to stamp the image, there would be a chance of getting some bleeding between the two, which is why use a water-based ink if you intend to colour with blends, and an alcohol-based ink if you're going to use your Stamp Right markers or watercolours. Another thing that's really effective is using embossing powder and heat embossing the outskirts, the outline. Just wondering whether to cut a small square of old olive and then mount it on to. So the stamp itself is 7 by, I work in centimetres, so 7 by 10.5. So if I cut a piece, I'm going to do 6 by, what did I say, 10.5 by 9.5. Kind of create that same effect, but in card. Then I'm half wondering, this may or may not work, won't work if we use that end, whether I can block out that centerpiece and make it look like I've done the same thing but in a different way. Make it look like that's card showing through. Does that make any sense whatsoever? Probably not. But I think the most important thing is just to get stamp sets out and play. And just see what works for you with it. So I'm kind of thinking that sort of looks like it's that background. And then I'm going to cut this piece. Let's get all my other colours out. Oh, actually I'm going to mount it onto a... leave that card with you. I'm going to put it onto an Early Espresso card. So I'm going to cut this piece half a centimetre smaller than what my card base will be. So my card base will be 10.5 by 14.85, 14.9 if you can't quite cope. So that piece is 10 by 14.45. Cut a Early Espresso card base and then pop that onto the card base and then that layered onto there. How does that look? Oh, video's got to catch up with itself. Oh yeah, silver on basic black, nice. I'll finish colouring in them. Yeah, quite, oh hang on, check before you, always check you're in the right ink. You don't want to put your dark on all of a sudden with the where we want light. And then tomorrow's Facebook Live will be, I'm going to do a one sheet wonder just with the new colours. And see how that goes. So I'm going to use some Very Versailles and Tasteful Touches. So I'm thinking the colours go really well together anyway. And I'm rather loving them. Although I'm very sad to see Pretty Peacock go. I think that might be one that stays in my collection, which I don't often do, but when I do love things. So because this is a slightly bigger base, what I tend to prefer to do is, I'm going to use a bit bigger than that, is to use dimensional, not dimensionals, it's called foam adhesive sheets rather than a lot of dimensionals. So I personally just prefer the way the card sits, and that's just, although I also think that foam adhesive sheets are slightly thicker. So look at this little penguin there. You can see what I've been playing with. It's like a little story, isn't it? Yeah. Background sheet. So I'm going to stick that onto there, and those onto there, and that onto there. Oh, 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 controversial. Oh, that's quite interesting. I missed a bit of background down here. Just fill those little bits in. Ooh. I might go with that side. Oh, there's a thing for turning over your piece of paper to see what's on the other side. So there we go. I've almost done nothing that was in my head before I started. Well, no, I sort of had some of it in my head, but not all of it. But we have, I think, 2 lovely cards. Oh, let's make sure that's the right way up. Let's centralise that. Might end up with a sentiment, maybe a smaller sentiment, but I might add that at a later date. So there we go. Thank you very much for joining me and interacting, much appreciated. Yeah, yeah, I'm liking that old olive turning out as it did. So we've got old olive focus there and bumblebee focus there. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye.